How do family roles affect our lives? Have you ever found yourself wondering, how come it's always me who does X or Y? And how come this person never does A or B? These are family roles. So let's look at a little bit about what a role is. So a role is simply something that we do in life that conforms to a number of different expectations. And so we'll all be used to them from different aspects of our lives. So we have roles at work, we have roles at home, we have roles, within our friendships and in our families. And so they conform to the way that we act, conforms to the expectations of other people. And these influence what we do, what we say, how we do it, and all of these things. So, so a collection of, and so things like also responsibilities and actions. And most of us perform a number of different roles during the course of our day. So if we are, for example, a woman, it may be then, we have to be someone's daughter. We may also be a partner or a wife or a friend. We may have a professional role that has carries a title. We might be a nurse or a doctor or a, whatever. And so we're juggling these, aren't we? We're very used to talking about this, about juggling roles. And the interesting part is when we come to look at the roles within our family, because everything starts there. Everything starts there in life, but also in terms of our roles as well. And the reason why this is interesting is because there is often a continuity between the roles that we play in our family, and it may be that there's one in particular that's kind of been forced on us and we've run with, if you like. There is often continuity between that and then the roles that we perform in other areas of our life as well. So what's interesting about roles is that there can be 10 people who, everybody performs them differently, basically. And it may look like they kind of, they're performing them in a way that's quite similar, but there will often be, very subtle and sometimes not subtle differences. So the way that I might perform the role of a friend or an employee or an entrepreneur or a partner or a wife or a girlfriend or a daughter or a sister, that may be very different from how everyone else in the world performs that role as well. So there are a couple of important things then about roles. And then firstly, I'm going to talk about role conflict and then also role ambiguity and confusion. So roles work if the way that we are expected to behave and what we're expected to do and how we're expected to do it, if that conforms with and aligns with our values. But where, for example, there is a conflict, then that can cause problems for us. So, if we have to do, or if we're doing a job, and that means that what's expected of us, is to behave in a way that we're not comfortable with, then that can cause problems for us. And so, if we are always the person who does this, X, Y, or Z, and so to give some specific examples, if we're always the peacemaker, if we're the secretary, the family secretary who always arranges things, always books the venues, always lets everyone else know what's going on and the time's changed, and organises who's bringing what to a picnic or a dinner or a, whatever, So in those roles, for example, then if it's clear what we're doing and it aligns with our values, then that's absolutely fine. But if it doesn't, it can cause problems for us. So that's role conflict. And if there is an ambiguity, or if there's confusion around what we're supposed to be doing, we don't know, or it hasn't been made clear to us, or we're in a new environment, for example, and we just don't know what's expected, then that can cause problems as well. So let's have a look at some of the key family roles, and I'm sure a number of these will probably start ringing bells for you. So let's just look at a few of the interesting ones. So the family baby is an interesting one, isn't it? Then you've got the scapegoat, and the hero, the family hero, or the family martyr, for example. What about in your family, do you have someone who kind of always plays the role of the clown? So the sort of family mascot, the person that's the joker, that always makes everyone laugh and is called upon to kind of, lighten the mood and sort of, roll out the jokes when needed. The black sheep of the family, the rescuer. And so sometimes that person can have the role of the mediator as well. The secretary is sometimes called the switchboard. I think that's, excuse my stomach rumbling. That's an interesting one as well to perform. So the lost child is another role. And then you've got the cheerleader, so the family cheerleader, the philosopher, the thinker, the person who always puts things in perspective and explains, and who's very logical and very rational. And then you have the truth teller, and so sometimes this person is a Cassandra from Greek mythology. So the person who foretells what's going to happen and no one believes them. So there may be some of those in your family. Now, why on earth am I talking about this then? Well, the reason why is because these roles, first of all, how they come about is very complicated and quite subtle. But the problem is that, there are two problems. The first is that if we don't like a role that we've been given, that's been forced on us, if you like, and that we seem to have kind of picked up, acquired, adopted, run with, then what can happen is that it can mean that we're not getting our needs met. So if we're forced into having to rescue others all the time, or mediate and sort things out, or to always be the person that tells jokes and makes everyone laugh, well, you can see then that there can be consequences to that. There can be costs to that, which obviously isn't good. And so in terms of how these roles come about, well, how do we become, the family black sheep, or the scapegoat, or the baby, or the mediator? Well, the origins of these roles really start as soon as we're born. In actual fact, they can start, although this might sound strange, but I'll explain, before we're born. So what I mean by that, is that within the family system and kind of network, people will be born into a family where other people are already playing certain roles. And what happens is that we have to kind of slot in, or we are slotted in, by others in the family very subtly. We're slotted into the roles that they want us to play, and they may not be consciously aware of this. It may be that there's just some, some jiggling around, and people are eased into roles that fit. And often there's a historical pattern to the way that the roles are set up within families. And so we just get slotted into, like a piece of a jigsaw, if you like. We're kind of slotted into that family jigsaw. And so then what happens is, so, it may be, for example, that, somebody behaves in a particular way on a given day. So when they're young, and they're not feeling well, or they're a bit cross about something or other. And it's, Peter, John, Tom, Harry, Sid, whoever. Oh, he's always so whatever. He's always so kind of cranky or grumpy or difficult or, not happy or always complaining. And then if it happens again, then, you just kind of, this is how these things just over time, then people develop this kind of reputation for being this particular person. But it's more complicated. I'm oversimplifying things. And so there is this fitting new family members into the place of the jigsaw that's kind of that fits the others. So what I want to do then is to just run through 4 very quick tips for dealing with these family roles, because if we aren't mindful of how they're affecting us, and if we have these roles, we've been given these roles and they don't work for us, they don't align with our values, we're not getting our needs met, and we're having our feelings invalidated, or just completely ignored. If you've got to be the person that's the peacemaker, the rescuer all the time, well, then who looks after you? And this is often a big problem. So the reason why I'm mentioning it is because these patterns can continue the whole way through life. And because there is often a continuity between family roles and roles that we then pick up and get given to us. You've got this interaction, they're kind of given to us and we take them on or we reject them. And then with that, we can risk being rejected ourselves. So 4 tips then. So number 1 is, what roles do you play in your family? There may be one key one, and there may be a number of subsidiaries as well, but usually there's one key one. So number 2, what do you gain from playing this particular role? And playing sounds like it's a game, and it's not. These roles can be a source of a great deal of unhappiness for all of us. But if you are performing or conforming to a particular role in your family, then what do you gain from it? Now, this might sound a bit counterintuitive. It might sound like, what on earth is she talking about? She's saying that it's kind of, they can be not nice. So what could I possibly gain from it? But in psychology, there are often what's called secondary gains. So it might not look like very obviously we gain something from performing a role. But often if you dig deep and deeper, you will find that there are gains, and sometimes they're hidden, slightly less obvious. So you can think about, for example, things that you might manage to avoid by carrying out certain roles in your family. So that's number 2. What do you gain? Number 3 is, but what do you lose? What does it cost you by having this particular role? And what are its disadvantages is tip number 3. And these are things that you can reflect on, and also they're really useful for journaling and discussing with others as well. Number 4 is, do these roles, or this primary role that you have in your family, does this play out in other settings too? So the role that you have in your family, do you also find yourself playing that role in other situations? So in your friendships or at work or in hobbies and interests, for example. So let's think then about key takeaways. So number one then, it's that the way that these roles develop is very, very important. And it's also extremely complex. These bits of the puzzle that fit together, as we've discussed, and it's it's a complex process, and this is why it can take some unraveling then as we grow up and as we become adults to think, whoa, hang on a sec, how on earth did this come about, and then to unpick them. Secondly then, that one of the problems with roles, if we are not comfortable with them, is that it can mean that we do not get our needs met. It means that our feelings often then they are either completely ignored or they are invalidated. So if you are, for example, often put into the role, of the family scapegoat, who's blamed for everything, well, no one's ever going to acknowledge your feelings and listen to them, etc. if you are always made to feel that things are your fault. And then just finally to say that the questions can be really useful. And so do use these, to kind of reflect on and to talk to others about. But the final thing I'd like to leave you with is that if you recognise yourself, I'm sure you will, we all do, in these roles, and you start doing a bit more research, etc. The key thing to remember is that there's nothing wrong with you at all. It does not mean you're doing life wrong, if you are carrying out one or some of these roles. They are simply, and I say simply, unavoidably, an occupational hazard of being a human being. So just as people talk about, taxes, death, roles in life, these social roles and roles within the family are absolutely unavoidable. So they happen to all of us. So you are not doing life wrong. You have not got anything wrong. You're not at fault and you haven't made any mistakes. However, this is the good news. What it does mean is that when you become aware of roles that you are performing, in inverted commas, then you can think about the origins of those roles and whether or not you want to change them. So if you don't like a role that you've been given, then you can stop. You can think about it and you can think about all of the implications and then stop performing that particular role. It usually causes some upheaval, in the family because people don't like it. If you unslot your piece of the jigsaw, it leaves a hole, doesn't it? So who's gonna fill it if you remove yourself? However, we are all entitled to choose the roles that we play in our family and in all situations in life. So I shall leave that there. Just to say very quickly, if you'd like to find out more about ways to create a life that works for you, that is fulfilling and meaningful, and provides happiness for you, then my free workshop is available to enroll at vickynewham.com/courses, and in that there's lots of exploration of what some of the key factors are. So that's it from me then. Bye for now. Bye bye.